Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include monsters, Maverick, and money.
Wrong! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you people? Wrong! You do have to tolerate it. It's my show.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! Florida! I cannot believe that I don't talk about Florida more often. Right? Like, Florida is like perfect fodder for my podcast. I used to listen to this radio show and they would do this bit that they would call Florida or Germany. And they would read a weird news story. Somebody had done something weird. And they would have to guess, did this happen in Florida or Germany? And the cannibalism stories were always Germany. Well, this story is about Florida. And you'll soon see that it has to be Florida. This man, he was sitting at home with his wife. They're watching TV. Quiet evening. Nothing different about this night at all. And they hear a knock at the front door. And he gets up and he goes to the front door and he opens the door. And there is an alligator there that bites him in the leg and thrashes about. He ends up going to the hospital because an alligator knocked at his door and bit him. Y'all are super worried about how AI is going to take over the world. Meanwhile, alligators have figured out how to knock on the door and get a snack. So what happened, and this man, he was like incredibly apologetic to the alligator. He was very, very empathetic for what the alligator was going through. He said that he scared the alligator as much as the alligator had scared him. And so, of course, the alligator jumped up and bit him in the leg. And apparently at this time of year, you ever seen the Apparently Kid on YouTube? Look it up. Just type in Apparently Kid. Apparently, this alligator, the hormones are high at this time of year, and they're, running around all over the place looking for a mate. And the alligator just happened to bump up against his door and made a knocking sound with his tail or something. And so the man opened the door, and the man said, "I scared the alligator. Of course he bit me." And, kudos to you for recognizing the plight of the wildlife in your area, sir. But I don't know that I would be this charitable towards the alligator myself. And perhaps he was charitable because the alligator was found and done away with. So that's the end of that story. Issue number 2! Fighter jets! Okay, the lovely Wendy and I, we still enjoy the Oscars, and we watched it recently, and afterwards she's like, well, let's, I haven't seen all the movies, let's watch some of them. What we had available was Top Gun Maverick, and Top Gun Maverick is a great movie. I really enjoyed it. It's super fun. I recommend it. It is not the most brilliant artistic masterpiece of all time, but it is a fun movie. I hope you've seen it because I'm about to ruin everything about it. And this should not surprise you for 2 reasons. One, you're listening to a podcast by Tim, and Tim is out to just destroy everything, right? That if I haven't destroyed a movie yet, what's going on? Second, if you've seen the movie, it's just fun. It's fantasy. It's not real. And you probably don't have high expectations that, everything that happens in this movie could really happen in real life. I'm going to take it a step further. Kudos to you for suspending your disbelief that, the Jets could do this sort of thing, or that a 65-plus-year-old man could do any of this. Or that he would still be in the Navy flying jets. All of that, that's fine. We're all good with it. We're just going to go with it because we want to have a good time. I'm going to take a step back further than that. The entire premise of the movie does not make sense. And here's why. they make a very quick passing reference to the whole reason why. And it caused me to look it up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like they shouldn't have even mentioned it because now the whole movie's just done. It's gone. So the original Top Gun, they flew F-14s. Then after that come the F-16s. Then after that come the F-18s. The F-18s are what they use in the movie Top Gun Maverick. Then after that are the F-22s. So the F-18s would be the third generation. They mention that they're flying up against these fifth generation jets. Allegedly, they don't tell us what country they're from, but we're to guess that they're, Russian-made MiGs. And so the F-22 would be the American fourth generation, and the American F-35 would be the fifth generation. And you're either going to watch, you've already seen the movie, or you're not going to watch it, but massive spoilers up ahead. Skip ahead or whatever, or you don't care because you're not going to see it at this point. So they have this mission where they have to fly low through a river gorge, right? And they say, we need to use the F-18s to do this because the F-35s are a high-altitude fighter jet. And the real reason they had to use the F-18s was because the other fighter jets are one-seaters. Only one person can sit inside those jets. And what Tom Cruise wants you to know is these were real jets, real stunts, real altitude, real speed. Like, the expression on his face in that movie is him actually experiencing high G's as a fighter pilot would. And because they can't train him how to fly an F-35, nor are they ever going to, they had to put him into a two-seater jet so that somebody could pilot the jet and then he could pretend to be the pilot of the jet. So that's one reason why they use the F-18s. The other reason they use the F-18s is they say, hey, these F-35s, they're high-altitude jets. They've got stealth technology on them. And what they're really good at is knocking out surface-to-air missile locations because nobody can see them coming, and they've got the weaponry to destroy all these things that would attack bomber planes. So they send the jets in, they destroy all these surface-to-air missiles, and then the bombers can come in and do all the heavy work. And so right there, that removes half the reason why they would use the F-18s over the F-35s. In the movie, they say they've got to use the F-18s because they got to fly below these missile turrets. The F-35s, they're not worried about the missile turrets at all. They're actually designed to take them out. Second reason, they say, hey, there's all these enemy jets, and the F-35s, they can't dogfight against these enemy jets. The F-18 is what we need for dogfighting. And that is sort of true. The reason F-35s aren't useful for dogfighting is because they would destroy the enemy jets before they're even miles within each other. Its targeting systems are so advanced that the enemy jets wouldn't even know the F-35s are anywhere in the vicinity, and they would be destroyed before the F-35s got there. There is no dogfighting necessary with an F-35. And thus, the whole movie doesn't make sense. It's not necessary to do this elaborate thing and this very difficult plunge into a valley and then climb out and then dogfight with jets that are more superior. None of it's necessary with the F-35. If they wanted to do this, they've got the technology. They don't have to hire Tom Cruise to train anybody how to do this. Which, all of this kind of leads to, there's another explanation for the movie that starts to make a little bit more sense to me now. There is a theory that Tom Cruise dies at the beginning of the movie. When he's, going to Mach 10.2, he actually dies. And everything else you see is him in purgatory. And he's reliving all of these relationships and moments in his life, and he's trying to make everything right. And there's more details, but one of the other pilots, his name is Hangman. And his helmet has his name on it, right? And all the vowels in his name are removed. Now, if you're a student of the Bible, who is somebody else who has all the vowels removed from his name? That's right. It's Yahweh. And Hangman saves Maverick at the end of the movie. Like I said, lots of spoilers in this episode. So Hangman, when he saves Maverick, he says, "This is the voice of your savior." Right? Like, the movie's coming to an end. The savior has come in and rescued Tom Cruise. There's more details to it. I'll try to find a link to somebody else going further into this theory. But of course, this whole theory is going to get blown up. Sorry for the pun. It's going to get blown up when they come out with Top Gun Maverick Part 2 or Top Gun 3 or whatever they're going to call it. I should have come up with a funny name. I'm really regretting not coming up with a funny name for Top Gun 3. Help me out. If you have a funny name for Top Gun 3, we can enjoy those together. But when that comes out, then the whole purgatory thing will be off. But that movie made so much money that they're guaranteed to be making a third movie, right? They have to. And hopefully we'll know who the enemy is next time they fight. Hey, it's time. What are the rules?
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
Okay, I'm about to go on an old man rant here, and I think it's truly my first and only who moved my cheese old man rant. And I could be wrong, but I feel old and I don't like the way things have changed.
I'm old and I'm not happy. Everything today is improved and I don't like it.
When I was a kid, when I was a young man even, if we wanted to listen to music and we didn't want to hear advertising, we would purchase the music. It started out for me that we would purchase a cassette tape, and then CDs, and then even MP3s. Hey, I don't want the ads. I want this music. I will buy it. I know I can listen to it for free on the radio, but I want to choose when I listen to it and how I listen to it. So I'm going to purchase it. I now own it. I can play it whenever I want for free because I have bought the rights to play it. Things have changed in music recently. I don't know if you've noticed this, but streaming is the whole deal now. Nobody buys albums anymore. You just stream it. You go on Spotify or Pandora or Stitcher or wherever, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the other services that I don't know about. You go there and you listen to what they give you. And you can pay a subscription if you want to listen to a specific song. Otherwise, they're going to play ads. And if you want to listen to a whole album, I guess some of them do it for you, but not all, depending on whether you've paid for the premium. Here's what's driving me crazy about this system. I have music that I purchased. I know I paid for it. I have an Android phone. I am certain that I've paid for some of this music through the Google Play Store. A number of years ago, Google decided for Androids that they were no longer going to have their native music app. They had bought YouTube, and YouTube Music was becoming a big thing, and they just really wanted to promote YouTube Music. So they did away with Google Play Music. And they said, you've got to use YouTube Music now. All of your purchased music will go right in there, and you can listen to it just the way you always have. Here's the deal with YouTube Music. They want you to pay for that premium subscription. And even on music that I have purchased, they play ads. And I have been in the desert driving where there is no radio available except for a country music station or two that are playing the same exact songs. You guys all know what I'm talking about. Even if you haven't driven through the desert, the rest of the country, everybody else calls that the country. Here in Southern California, we call it the desert. But it's the same place. You know about those country music stations. You don't want to listen to them. So I pulled out my phone and I turned on YouTube Music to listen to music I had purchased. And there's no, like, the internet's spotty or it's not working. I've downloaded this music onto my phone and YouTube Music says, sorry, you don't have an internet connection right now. You can't listen. And the reason I can't listen to my own music that I've purchased is because of the lack of the internet, they can't run an ad before my music plays. This is not the way it's supposed to go. I purchased the music. The thing between me and the record company, we're square, right? I've done the thing that the record company wanted me to do. And now this app company is like, well, you know, if you want to use your microwave, you need to watch our ads before you cook your food in it. That's what's happening right now. Can you imagine having to watch an ad before you opened your refrigerator to get the food that you purchased? And I know that I'm sure it's different on iPhones, and all you iPhone users are smelling your farts right now about how great the iPhone is, because this doesn't happen on the iPhone. Maybe it does. I hope it does. But even if it doesn't, like, Androids are cheaper. I'm trying to save money. I could get it all to work if I just paid more money on the Android, or if I paid more money for an iPhone. But I've already paid the money. I don't want to pay more money just to listen to music I've already purchased.
Kick me under the table all you want. I won't shut up. I won't shut up.
Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@thewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, thewrongpodcast.com, and help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Listener Matt writes in and says, please explain Sam Bankman-Fried to us. And listener Drew writes in and says, more Mormonism, please. Well, I've got good news for both of you guys. Issue number 3, banking. Okay, you've probably heard of cryptocurrency at this point, and I'm just going to cut to the chase on crypto. Cryptocurrency is fake internet money, and it's useful for two things and two things only. The first is if you want to do something illegal. Great to use crypto. The second thing is if you want to invest in something super speculative, and you're okay with losing all of your money in the hopes that maybe someday this thing will work out and will be the next big thing, and you get 1,000 times whatever you invested into it. Those are the two things crypto's good for. And that's just going to be the case until some government says, yep, this crypto is as good as cash. And until that happens, you don't know which crypto that's going to be, and it's basically worthless unless you're trying to sell drugs or pay off ransoms or something. Well, in the news in the last several months, there was this company called FTX that totally collapsed. And the owner of FTX, his name is Sam Bankman-Fried. And he is currently under house arrest, awaiting trial. And he was the richest crypto whale in the world. Like, he had the most crypto cash ever, and he was like a billionaire, and everybody knew he had made all of his money off crypto, and he was the reason we could trust that crypto was going to work out because of how rich he was. And the way he made his money was that he noticed, like, he was buying Bitcoin, and he noticed that the price of Bitcoin, one Bitcoin in the United States, was different than the price of Bitcoin in Japan. And he got this great idea. He's like, hey, I'll hire somebody in Japan. I'm not sure which one was higher and which one was lower. Sorry, I don't have that detail, but let's say that it was more expensive in the United States and cheaper in Japan. So he'd have somebody in Japan buy the Bitcoin for him, and he'd wire the money, and then they'd give him the Bitcoin, and then he would sell it in the United States for more money. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do in investing, right? Buy low, sell high. Buy low, sell high. That's the only thing anybody knows about investing. And he was doing it with crypto. He was buying it low in Japan, selling high in the United States. And he made real money doing that. He made real money selling fake magic internet money. Eventually, he made up enough money that he created a company that created its own cryptocurrency. And he made even more money selling that cryptocurrency that he made up. He wanted to fix the original problem that he had encountered with the price differences between Japan and the United States. So he founded another company called FTX. And this was a crypto exchange website. You go on there and you can see everybody selling different cryptocurrencies, and you can buy and sell there, kind of like eBay. And it works all over the world. And so it kind of consolidated this pricing for the entire world. And people lined up to give this guy money. They're like, "You've got it, Sam. We believe in you. This is totally working out." All kinds of celebrities endorsed or invested in FTX. They were profitable enough to buy advertising for major sports arenas and uniforms and things like that. Like, they were becoming a household name. And the thing with believing in magical internet money is that you've kind of suspended disbelief to believe that all of these currencies are going to work out. And so when this guy comes along and he is selling his company to you as an investor and says, "Hey, you believe in crypto, right?" And you're like, "Yes, sir, I do. Make the magic happen." He says, "Great, I got a magic wand in this company." And you're like, "Oh, well, magic is real and magic wands work. So yes, I will invest in your company." So people put all kinds of money into this company, and its value was really based on the real money people had put into the company. And the bulk of the value of the company was actually based on his other company that created a cryptocurrency. So the vast majority of the wealth of this company was actually in another cryptocurrency, a specific cryptocurrency. Well, not too long ago, the markets got upset and people needed cash. And so people who had invested in cryptocurrency started to sell all their cryptocurrency. And the value of all of those currencies went way down. And they had put real money into FTX to hold for them as they bought and sold these cryptos. And as the value went down, they started pulling all of their money out of FTX. And they pulled so much money out that FTX couldn't pay them their own money. It was theirs. It was their money. But FTX said, "Oh, sorry, we had invested in other things. We didn't know you were going to ask for it so soon." And so eventually the company went bankrupt because they couldn't pay off all the depositors. And they couldn't sell the stock in the other company because it was all based on cryptocurrency itself, and the value of that had all gone way down. So this company goes bankrupt, and people start looking into, all the financials, and they're like, the financial accountability of this company was an absolute mess. Like, it's a joke. Like, they're sending text messages as receipts. Like, this is no good. Like, this whole thing is just a massive, massive fraud. Like, they were just stealing money from investors in creating this company. That's the best explanation for what happened with FTX. And part of the reason that this went on is because Sam said, "Hey, I believe in creating great wealth so that I can create good. I'm going to give all kinds of money away. I'm a benevolent donor. I'm only creating this wealth so I can give and give and give to causes I believe in." And he was a rather progressive, Democratic minded guy. And he was giving all kinds of money to Democratic candidates and Democratic or progressive causes. And so a lot of people who should have been holding him accountable or creating laws to govern this sort of thing were like, no, it's cool. We believe in Sam because he really believes in doing good. And so because he believed in doing such good, people look the other way. And that brings me to Joseph Smith. And you will see how these two stories tie together in just a moment. And when I say that Sam Bankman-Fried and Joseph Smith have something in common, you're like, oh, it must be because they're both con men or something, right? No, it's actually much more specific than that. And you didn't even know this story. So Joseph Smith's Mormon Church had 4 stages during his life. And the first stage was in Palmyra, New York. And that's where the angel gives him the plates and he translates the Book of Mormon and he founds the church. And not too long after he founds the church, this pastor from Ohio named Sidney Rigdon discovers him and the Book of Mormon. And Rigdon is part of this Christian sect called the Campbellites. And they are still in existence. You still know them. They're known now as the Church of Christ or the Disciples of Christ or the Church of Christ International. There's several different variations, but you probably have some version of a Campbellite church in your town today, if you're in the United States. And the Campbellites, they believe that the second coming of Christ is imminent, like it is about to happen. And they also believe that their church is the only church where you can find true baptism. There's some other specifics to them. I won't get into all of it right now, but those are 2 big ideas that you can hold on to. Well, Rigdon was a great preacher, and he attracted lots of people, and he came into some theological conflict with the Campbellites, and decided to break away. And he reads the Book of Mormon and discovers Joseph Smith, and it turns out that every single theological question or conflict that Rigdon was facing, the Book of Mormon answered. And it answered exactly the way he would have answered it. Every single question. These questions, they weren't the questions of the early church of the 1st century or even the 2nd century. They were 19th century questions among American churches, among American Protestant churches. And whatever kind of question Rigdon could come up with, or other people could come up with, the Book of Mormon answered it exactly the way Rigdon wanted it to be answered. And Rigdon is elated. He's like, this is great. We have a new book of scripture that agrees with me and my preaching and what my congregation believes. And so he takes the Book of Mormon back to his church in Kirtland, Ohio. Now, some of you Costco aficionados, you just got excited because you think I said Kirkland. And I did not say Kirkland. I said Kirtland with a T. They do not sell generic Who's-Its or what thingamabobs. It's just a town in Ohio. And what you need to know about Palmyra, New York, and then Kirtland, Ohio, was that they were the wild, wild west at the time. It doesn't seem like the west to you and me, but they were really out there. So New York at first, Palmyra, New York at first, and then Kirtland, Ohio, even further west. Like people were really moving far, far out. And Joseph is having a hard time getting things going in New York. His reputation before he came out with the Book of Mormon as like a con man and a scryer, somebody a treasure digger, kind of a different form of a common con at the time, basically, was to tell people that you could find hidden treasure on their farmland. And they pay you money and you go look for it. So his reputation is kind of getting in the way of building this church. He's got a whole congregation in Kirtland, Ohio, just waiting for him. So he leaves New York and goes to Kirtland, Ohio. He gets there, and the church kind of takes on a different flair because of the congregation that he's joining. And it's very charismatic. They're practicing speaking in tongues. People are trying to prophesy themselves. And the Book of Mormon it absolutely teaches this thing called the United Order. What we would call the United Order today is communism. The Book of Mormon teaches communism, and this church and the LDS church at the time, they're like, yes, we're going to follow this model preached in the Book of Mormon. We're going to do it too. And they also developed the first temple. And the first LDS temple is different than all of the temples that you think of today. Wherever you think of them, this first one is different. It's kind of more of a meeting hall. It's a big hall where everybody can get together, and they have a baptismal there where they do special baptisms, washings and anointings. And that still goes on in the other temples that you know of today, but everything else that you might think happens in an LDS temple, it doesn't happen in that first temple. At this time, there is a real estate boom. In 2006, 2007, we had a real estate boom here in the United States, and this real estate boom in the 1830s was pretty much exactly the same. Everybody was like, wow, look at all the money you can make with land, buying and then selling, flipping the land and selling it quickly. And people wanted loans so that they could get in on this real estate boom. And the problem that was facing Joseph and all of his people who wanted to invest in real estate was that they couldn't get the loans to buy the land. So Joseph had this great idea. He said, hey, we will form our own bank, and then you give me all your money, and we will let people borrow that money, and then the bank itself will make its own money. Everything will be great. And so all of these people in the church, they all give their money into this bank. And here's the deal with a real estate boom in the United States in the 1830s. If you were in Ohio, there is still more land to the west of you. And there's like 2,000 miles more land to the west of you. People can just keep moving west. And this real estate bubble crashes. It crashes, just like any other boom, it crashes hard. And all the money that people thought they were going to make on real estate evaporates because the price of land just drops. And so people default on their loans. Now, this bank that Joseph Smith had made wasn't a real bank. He made it because he and his people were frustrated by all the regulations following banks and the rules and stipulations around getting loans. So they made their own bank. But you are not allowed to make your own bank without the regulations from the federal government or the state government, from the government in general. And so they're like, aha, you won't let us be a bank. So we are an anti-bank. And they printed up money that said, anti-bank, $1. You've probably heard the term, he's as crooked as a $3 bill. You can find a $3 bill printed up by Joseph Smith and his anti-banking society. Still today, those papers are out there. And let me tell you, they're worth a lot more than $3. So they think they found this loophole by calling it an anti-bank. Well, as I was saying, the real estate market crashes because people just keep moving west, and this bank collapses, and everybody in the church loses their shirts and their money, but mostly their shirts, to Joseph Smith's anti-banking society. And they are furious with him. Like he had used his prophetic mantle to say this would work, and it did not work. So they have lost all trust in him. and they run him out of town. He has to flee. He has to run to get away from his own followers. And he had sent people out to Missouri to set up a mission in a place called Far West, Missouri. And so he ran out to Missouri to start the third phase of Mormonism. So here's the lesson about Sam Bankman-Fried and Joseph Smith. Keep banking boring. Banking really, really needs to be boring. It's highly regulated and it's got stable profits at best. Like it's not gonna go gangbusters like Apple stock or anything like that. It's just gonna make very moderate returns over time. And that's exactly what you want it to do. Nobody wants to put their money into a bank that's gonna close and take all their money with it. It needs to be boring. And every 40 years or so, there's somebody like Joseph Smith or like Sam Bankman-Fried who comes along and says, no, I've got this great idea for this non-regulated banking system, and it's going to be great. And it's not. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. Let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.